What's going on, Hawk fans? It's your boy Nolan Hawkeye Anthony here, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic week wherever you may be and however you may be listening. This past week, there's been a lot of talk due to the NBA Combine about LUKA Garza, the perennial National Player of the Year, and quite frankly, he should have been, in my eyes, a two-time or two-year National Player of the Year, but I digress. There's been a lot of talk on his game. Specifically, can he make it in the NBA? And if he does, at what capacity could LUKA Garza help out an NBA franchise? So I want to dive into some film, a lot of NBA situational plays, and show you to what extent LUKA Garza could be an NBA player, and kind of give him some player comps so that you guys can see what type of player, if your favorite NBA team happens to draft LUKA Garza, what type of player you would be getting with him. Now, before we move on and take a look at some of the highlights from LUKA Garza's incredible career, and when I say incredible, that's putting it lightly, I do want to mention going to 247hawkeye.com, your place for all things Iowa Hawkeyes. And I hope you do consider hitting that subscribe button for the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. At the very least, I hope that you comment, give me a like, smash that like button, as people say. And, because I live in California, folks, and talking to Iowa fans specifically, even with Facebook and Twitter and those things, becomes a little difficult. So I do hope that you would consider giving that subscribe. It really means a lot when you do that, and I'm very grateful for those that have already done that, so thank you. Now, the reality to which LUKA Garza is having his game questioned is due to the fact that guys like Adam Morrison from Gonzaga, Tyler Hansbrough from North Carolina had phenomenal NBA careers, and it did not necessarily translate to the NBA. And if it did translate to the NBA, the type of career that these individuals had in college absolutely did not translate to the same level in the NBA. And that is why a guy like LUKA Garza, who has all of these amazing awards, is getting the type of, and I wouldn't call it criticism, more question marks that he is currently getting when it comes to the NBA and the NBA draft. Now, as you guys can see on the screen here, this dude got every award imaginable, and it is quite amazing that he accomplished this. And one thing I will say before we move on to all the other aspects is LUKA Garza is an excellent testament towards putting in the work and the practice and seeing and receiving results. And I think it doesn't get much better than LUKA Garza in that regard. Now, his career highlights, as you guys can see, he was a consensus National College Player of the Year this past 2021 season. In 2020, I do believe, as an Iowa fan myself, that he won a couple of the National Player of the Year awards. However, the main ones went to Obi Toppin of Dayton. And, for myself, I didn't necessarily agree with that, especially just looking at the numbers. I thought LUKA Garza was the National Player of the Year consensus wise. And really, the main awards that somebody tries to win would definitely be, it's right here. As it says here, Garza scored 44 points, third most in Iowa history. Yeah, we know he had great games like that. But the main awards, the top Player of the Year awards, would be the Wooden Award and the Naismith Trophy, and probably the Oscar Robinson Trophy. That's definitely an amazing one. But I would say by far the top two would be the Naismith and the Wooden Award, which he won both of them. And quite frankly, this past year, there was a lot of competition from some really, really good players, especially in the Big Ten. IU Dosunmu would be one of them. And so, again, it is just incredible that he was able to win those. Now, looking at LUKA Garza's coming out of high school, he was a consensus four-star guy, and I think that is important to note. Now, he was not a top 50 type guy, and for what it's worth, I don't know how much that matters, but as a consensus, he was a top 110 player, 115 player, and a consensus four-star player coming out of high school. And obviously he committed to Iowa over some pretty big offers. He had an offer from Alabama, Notre Dame, some pretty, maybe not the best basketball schools, but still good programs. Georgetown, Georgia, Indiana, Louisville, Navy, Nebraska, Northwestern, Penn State. You get the picture. Folks, he was loaded with offers coming out of high school, and ultimately Fran McCaffrey and the Iowa Hawkeyes won his services. And boy, he did not disappoint. Immediately getting to Iowa, which I will pull up here some of his stats, LUKA became an immediate starter for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and that is no easy task. Listen, Iowa is not the most elite basketball team, but they're still a dang good one. I mean, this past year, they were a majority top 10 team. So, but from the get-go, when LUKA Garza got to Iowa, he cemented himself. As we can see here, he averaged 12 points a game as a freshman. And then the next year, he averaged 13.1. And one thing that sticks out to me, and it stuck out 2-3 years ago, is his consistent improvement. In his junior year, it would have been almost impossible to improve upon the season that LUKA Garza had. But he did. He improved upon it. It was incredible, the season he had. And what most people don't know is that in his freshman and sophomore years, LUKA Garza was probably considered the third best player behind Tyler Cook, certainly, who's with the Detroit Pistons right now. I don't know how long that will last, but he's with the Pistons right now. And Joe Wieskamp. And most folks actually didn't even think that Iowa in LUKA Garza's junior season were going to make the NCAA tournament. This was in his junior year, it was considered a rebuilding season for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And that was furthest from the truth, in large part to the massive improvement LUKA Garza was able to have. And folks, I got to tell you, you would be hard pressed to find somebody who works harder in the sport of basketball, both professionally and collegiately, than LUKA Garza. And on a side note, the relationship that LUKA Garza has with his father is absolutely awesome and amazing. You would hope that everybody would be able to have a relationship like that, but it's a great example of what a good son to father, a fatherly role looks like. You would be hard pressed to find somebody that works as hard as this guy. And folks, it's not like LUKA Garza just one day started working hard. From the get-go at Iowa, this guy was working incredibly hard. He had, I believe, an 8-pound cyst removed from his stomach before his sophomore season. And he still was able to improve. And looking back at the story and listening to some of the things that LUKA Garza and his dad were saying in the offseason, he probably expected to have an even better year than he actually had. But because of the surgery, he got out of shape a little bit, but he still had, for a sophomore, an incredible season. And you can see the Mikan drill, the classic Mikan drill, which, by the way, if you have a daughter or a son, there's very few drills for fundamentals that are better than the classic Mikan drill. So I highly suggest doing this. But again, this is a perfect example of his work ethic. And at the end of the day, that does matter, because when you get to the NBA, the separation between guys is so small that the things that ultimately separate guys are things like their character, their work ethic, and things like that, which LUKA Garza has in spades. I do want to show this video of what LUKA Garza.
LUKA, how's Chicago treating you so far?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
I think just to give you a little perspective on how hard this guy works and how he what his approach like, or what is his approach like in the game of basketball, because that matters a lot as well.
I've shown people that I've changed my body a little bit, and I'm excited about the results.
Yeah, I know you've lost almost 30 pounds. You almost look like a different player from what we've been able to see in workouts. What went into
Well, in a nutshell, what LUKA Garza was saying here was that he's dropped weight, and because in the NBA, unlike at Iowa, where he posted up 47% of the time, in the NBA, he's going to be playing on the outside more, which is correct. And I love that he is not so stubborn to where he thinks to himself, I don't have to change my game. No, you do, because the NBA is so much different. And I love that he is willing to go about it in that way and change it up. And I believe his playing weight at Iowa was about 225 or around there. Excuse me, 265. And from what I've heard, he's dropped about 15 pounds. So let's take a look at this guy's skills and some examples of NBA plays within the college game. And let's give a nice critique of how much his game will work in the NBA. From the get-go, one thing that really stands out to me that I think will translate to the NBA perfectly are two things. One, his physicality, and two, his ability to shoot the jumper, which right off the bat in this pick and roll play, this pick and pop, boom, no hesitation at all. He gets into the screen, he pops, and it's buckets. That, at the end of the day, in the NBA, not only does your game have to be quick, but decisions have to be quick. You cannot overthink shots. You just got to, okay, I'm open, boom, shot taken. And looking, I've always said when I did a little analysis of four-star Iowa commit Desante Bowen, which you guys can see on this channel, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony. I've said that I think that form matters, but it's not the end all be all. I do think that there are many examples of guys who have ugly form, but they practice it a ton and they make it. And if that works for them, great. Sean Marion would be an example of that. And I remember, going back to myself playing basketball, but that was the case a lot of the times. Now, overall, having good form helps more than it hurts. And LUKA Garza, again, you're not going to find form much better, especially at 6'11", which is what LUKA Garza checks in at. And by the way, his reach, which he was measured at, as we can see here, and I did want to bring this up. This is from Hawkeye Insider from the 247 Sports. I believe David Eichel wrote this. Former Iowa star LUKA Garza is preparing for the biggest week of his life. He checks in at 6'11". He weighed 265 pounds in his last Iowa Hawkeye game. And he has slimmed down to 243 pounds. And listen, if weight helps, but if you can be slimmer and have more muscle, your body can take more of a beating and you can play at a lighter weight. So I think that really does work for him. And he, as he said in his interview, and I think he's right, he is going to have to play on the perimeter much more. So that is a good step in the right direction and shows how much he's willing to work. And just some fun stuff here. Two-time Big Ten Player of the Year. He broke Iowa's 32-year-old scoring record held by Roy Marble. He finished with 2,306 points. Unreal. And that ranks 7th all-time in Big Ten history. Folks, that record looked untouchable at Iowa. And we can see here that LUKA had 11.7% body fat. That's fantastic for a big guy. He was 6'10" without shoes and 6'11" and a quarter with shoes on. So, he's very close to 7 feet. And he had a 7'1" and a half wingspan. Not the longest, but certainly not terrible either. He won't win any awards for that, but I'm not sure you can scrutinize him for that either. I think that's still pretty dang good. In this play, you're going to see Garza's ability to hit a deep shot on the move. That's not an easy shot to make for a big guy. It just is not. And like I said, he caught it on the move. With pressure still in his face. That's still a contested shot, folks. That's still a contested shot. Here's another three. Looking back at his Iowa career, LUKA Garza most certainly did shoot a lot of deep threes. I mean, I don't remember hardly any of his threes coming from the corner. So he was getting his three-point shots from the longest spot possible. And as you guys can see here, this is Iowa versus North Carolina, okay? And I think it's very important to note that against not only against top-tier teams, but against top-tier centers and more broadly, teams with NBA talent, LUKA Garza still dominated. Now, does that mean everything? No, but it does mean something. Another point to make is that LUKA Garza improved his defensive game tremendously in his senior season. Once again, showing that if he puts his mind towards working on some perceived issue, the issue will be rectified or remedied. And that is something that NBA GMs should be very, very happy about. And again, as we can see here, taking a look back at some of his stats, nearly everything improved each year. His three-point shooting, it did get worse from his first to his second year, but I do think that's because he shot more threes in his second year. And it's important to note that Tyler Cook, who was Iowa's post presence, not because he was better at it than LUKA, more so because LUKA could actually play on the outside, whereas Tyler Cook, if you played him on the outside, he would have virtually been a no-show in certain games. But as we can see here, he shot 34.8%, so close, very close to 35.8, very close to 36%, and 44% in his final season at Iowa. Now, I do want to say, because I don't want this to be a video where all I'm doing is praising LUKA Garza. One thing LUKA Garza most certainly is going to have to work on is free throw shooting. At the end of the day, they're free, and you have to knock them down, especially when he gets to the NBA, where he probably won't be getting all the calls that he got in college. Now, he's not a bad free throw shooter, but he is not a good or even great free throw shooter either. As we can see here, he shot 68%, 80%. So he is capable of shooting free throws at a high clip. Then he went back down to 65%, and then he shot 71%. I do think that the 80% was in part because he had the ability to rest. That doesn't mean that he didn't work hard, because he did. But when Iowa had Tyler Cook, he was not forced to use as much energy as he had to each and every play in his junior and senior seasons. And I do think that that is also important to note. But either way, LUKA is going to have to become a 75 or higher % free throw shooter, at the very least, a 70% free throw shooter.